The trading station Meridian Prime hung in the darkness of space like a metallic flower, its observation decks glowing with soft blue light. Commander stood near one of the wide windows, looking out at the stars beyond. He wore his human military uniform with quiet pride, even though the officers around him towered over him by a full meter. The cultural exchange event had started an hour ago. Representatives from a dozen alien species had gathered to show the strength and honor of their people. They had displayed their precision weapons. They had demonstrated their telepathic abilities. Now everyone waited to see what they would bring. Had studied every species in the galactic community. He knew their strengths and their weaknesses. He understood their pride and their fears. This knowledge had saved his life more than once and had made him useful to the human government. But standing in a room full of beings who could break him with one hand sometimes felt like a small child at a gathering of giants. The delegation entered through the main doors with precision and power. Their movements were perfect, controlled, the movements of warriors who had trained for centuries. The leader was Commander Aura, and everyone in the room recognized her name. She had never lost a fight. She had never needed mercy. In culture, she was the highest example of what a warrior could be. Aura was tall, with dark skin that looked like polished metal in the station lights. Her eyes were black and intelligent, missing nothing. She wore combat armor, not fancy clothes for the event. This told something important. She did not come to the event to make friends. She came to show they were ready for anything. Watched her move through the crowd. Other officers stepped back, creating space for her without being told. Her own soldiers stood at attention, waiting for her commands. She was used to power and used to respect. The way people moved around her made it clear that no one had ever challenged Aura and lived to tell about it. The event moved forward with speeches and demonstrations. The captain, a large, muscular creature with blue skin, began speaking about trade agreements. His words were polite, but his tone was sharp and disrespectful. He made jokes about the being old-fashioned, their technology being slow compared to newer species, their way of fighting being simple and brutal. Aura did not react at first. She stood still, her black eyes fixed on the captain. The other did not move either, but saw the tension building in the room. He had seen this pattern before. Pride had been challenged. Someone would need to respond. The captain made one more joke about weakness. Then he pushed a younger officer hard enough to make him fall. The peaceful event was over. 3 enforcers moved forward, weapons drawn. They were big and strong and trained in combat. They expected to fight thee and win. What they did not expect was what happened next. Moved forward without thinking. This was his job, his responsibility. He was a human diplomat and military liaison. If fighting started on this station, it could destroy the peace talks between the human government and the Empire. War would follow. Millions would die. The first saw coming and laughed. A human alone fighting 3 trained warriors. It was not a fight. It was a joke. The pulled his weapon up to fire and knew he had maybe 2 seconds to act. Did not have speed that matched the aliens. He did not have strength that matched them either. What he had was knowledge and experience. He had studied physiology. He knew where their weak points were. He knew how they moved and where they would strike next. The first swung his weapon upward, rolled to the side using the alien's own momentum against him. He moved inside this reach where the weapon could not help, then struck with careful precision at a nerve cluster on this neck. The big alien went down, stunned and unable to move. The second came fast, used the first fallen alien's body to block the second one's path. Then he moved past, striking at the tendons behind the legs. The alien fell to one knee and finished the fight with a hold that put pressure on this breathing. The alien went unconscious within seconds. The third was faster and smarter than the first 2. He kept his distance and tried to use his weapon, but had already studied his movement patterns, predicted where the third would strike and moved there first, disarming him and putting him in a hold that left him gasping for air. All 3 lay on the ground. None of them were dead, had not wanted to kill them. He had wanted to end the fight as quickly as possible with the least damage. Every movement he made had been controlled and precise. The crowd stood silent. The humans were amazed. Their commander had defeated 3 armed aliens using only his hands and his brain. The other alien species looked shocked too. No one had expected a human to move that fast or fight that smart. Then heard a slow, steady clapping sound. He turned and saw Aura, the commander, applauding him. Her black eyes were bright with something he'd never seen before. Interest, respect, challenge. Ara walked forward until she stood only a few steps away from. He was breathing hard from the fight, sweat on his face, small cuts on his hands where they had cut him. He must have looked weak compared to her perfection. But Ara was looking at him like he had just shown her, something she had been searching for her whole life. "That was well done, Commander," Ara said. Her voice was deep and calm and certain. "You fight with intelligence instead of just strength. Your species is more dangerous than we believed." Bowed his head slightly, showing respect to the high-ranking officer. "Thank you, Commander. I only did what was necessary to end the conflict." "Yes," Ara said. "You fought without arrogance. You showed mercy to your enemies. This is unusual." She paused, and when she spoke again, her words were careful and deliberate. "I would like to fight you, Commander, not here, not like this, in a proper combat match where we can test each other's skills without destroying this station." The room went quiet. Every human officer in the room looked shocked. Fighting a commander, one of the greatest warriors in the galaxy, meant facing almost certain death. But looked into Ara's eyes and saw something there besides hunger for victory. He saw someone who wanted to understand something true about strength and courage. He saw someone who had never really been challenged. 3 days had passed since accepted Ara's challenge. The news had spread through every corner of the galaxy through faster-than-light communications. Military strategists from both human and governments had begun analyzing the coming fight. News stations on 100 worlds discussed what would happen when a human fought a warrior. Most people thought the human would die. Trained in his quarters on the station, he ran on a small treadmill, pushed weights that were heavy for a human body, and practiced movement drills that had taken him years to master. His body was strong, but he knew it was not strong enough. Ara had spent centuries perfecting her body through training and genetic enhancement, could not compete with her through raw physical power. He needed to use his advantages instead. He had speed and flexibility that some species did not have. He had intelligence that allowed him to predict movement and plan tactics. He had the human ability to continue fighting even when exhausted, even when hurt. He had something else too, something that they might not expect. He had the ability to choose mercy over killing, to show respect to an opponent even in the middle of battle. Colonel Grove, the highest human officer on the station, summoned to her office. She was older than him, with gray hair and a serious expression that showed decades of military experience. "You are making a mistake," she said without any greeting. "A serious, possibly fatal mistake." "I understand the danger," Colonel replied. "But if I had refused the challenge, what would that tell thee about human courage?" "It would tell them that we are smart enough not to throw away our best diplomats in pointless fights," said. "You are important to the negotiations between our governments. Losing you could damage relations for years." Sat down across from his commanding officer. "With respect, Colonel, winning this fight could also help relations. The respect strength. They respect warriors who can stand against them. If I show them that humans have courage and intelligence and fighting ability, it might make them view our species as worthy partners." Looked away from him, out the window at the ships holding position near the station. "You cannot beat her, you know. Even if you fight perfectly, even if you use every trick and technique you know. She is physically superior in every way." "Then I will lose," said. "But I will not make it easy for her. I will make her work for the victory. And maybe, just maybe, I will show her something about human strength that she did not know before." Leaned back in her chair. "You really believe this?" "I do," said. "And I think you do too. That is why you have not ordered me to refuse the challenge." The colonel was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "You are right. You would die refusing her and you would live fighting her. But only barely. Only if you are brilliant and lucky and brave all at the same time." "Yes," said simply. "That is my hope." The day of the fight arrived with ceremony and formal procedures. The combat arena on Meridian Prime was a circular space with reinforced walls that could handle serious violence. Observation decks surrounded the arena, filled with military officers from dozens of species. News crews broadcast every moment across the galaxy. Thousands of ships maintained position to watch the fight through their sensors. Entered the arena first, wearing only simple clothing. No weapons, no armor. He was a human, nothing more or less. The crowd fell silent. Then Ara entered. She was magnificent and terrible at the same time. Her body was all power and precision. Her exoskeleton glowed slightly in the arena lights. Her black eyes fixed on with complete attention. When she looked at him, he felt like the only thing in the universe that mattered to her. She wore no armor, No weapons, like she had chosen to fight with only her body and her skill. The fight began when the signal was given. Aura moved forward with absolute confidence. She was not worried. She had never been worried about any fight. She was the greatest warrior, and nothing could change that fact. Stood still watching, he let her come to him. This was strategy. Let her make the first move, learn her patterns, understand her speed and power, prepare for the moment when he would need to act. Aura threw a punch that would have crushed Skull if it had landed. He moved to the side, feeling the air move as her fist passed inches from his face. She was faster than he expected, stronger than he expected, and she expected him to be frightened. Was not frightened, he was focused. Aura turned and struck again, rolled backward, using her forward momentum to increase her reach. She swung wider this time, and he went underneath her arm, moving inside her defense. For a moment he was close enough to strike, but Aura was not slow. She twisted her body and moved away, creating distance. The fight continued like this for many minutes, defended and moved and learned. Aura attacked with overwhelming force, expecting to overwhelm him quickly, but was still there, still moving, still fighting, and he was still learning. She threw another punch. This time did not just move away. He moved in the exact way that would catch her arm at the right angle. As she extended her fist toward him, he grabbed her wrist and used her own momentum to spin her body. Aura had to adjust her weight or fall. She stumbled slightly, a tiny thing, but it was something. The commander recovered instantly, but something had changed in her eyes. She was beginning to understand that this human was not just moving. He was thinking. He was predicting her actions and preparing for them. She was still winning, but he was no longer just trying to survive. Aura increased her speed. Her attacks came faster now, from different angles, more complex and intelligent. She was fighting at a level above what she had showed before, and matched her. Not in power, but in intelligence and speed and the absolute refusal to fall. They fought for nearly an hour. Both of them took damage, bled from several cuts where Aura's strikes had caught him. His body was bruised and exhausted. Aura showed no blood, but could see that she was breathing harder now. She was no longer moving with perfect ease. Even the greatest warrior in the galaxy could feel exhaustion if the fight lasted long enough. The moment came one had been waiting for. Aura threw a powerful strike, and her body was fully committed to the motion. Moved underneath her, behind her, and wrapped his arms around her in a hold that targeted the exact place on a body where the nervous system was most vulnerable. Aura tried to escape, but had studied. He knew the weakness. He held firm as her body struggled against him. She could not break free. The hold was perfect. "I yield," Aura said. Her voice was steady, but there was something in it that had never expected to hear. Respect, true respect. Released her immediately and stepped back. Aura stood and turned to face him. She was breathing hard. Her eyes were bright. "You are the first warrior to ever defeat me," she said simply. "And you did it with honor. You did not kill me. You did not try to hurt me beyond what was necessary. You treated me as an equal." "You are an equal," said. "You fought brilliantly." Medical bay on Meridian Prime was sterile and cold and quiet. Medical technicians moved from patient to patient, treating the injuries from the fight. Sat on a medical bed while a human doctor examined the cut across his ribs. The wound was deep but not life-threatening. It would heal in a few weeks with proper treatment. Aura sat on a medical bed on the other side of the bay. Medical officers were examining her, checking for any damage from the fight. She looked at from across the space, and when their eyes met, she nodded slightly, a signal that she wanted him to come to her. Dismissed the human doctor and walked across the medical bay. The other officers noticed but did not stop him. It was clear that something unusual was happening, something beyond normal military protocol. "Leave us," Aura told her own medical officers. They bowed and departed quickly, understanding that their commander wanted privacy. Sat down across from her. Up close, he could see the marks from the fight. Small bruises on her dark skin where his hands had held her. Dust and sweat on her combat uniform. But more than the physical marks, he could see something in her eyes, something he had not expected. Vulnerability. "You want to know why I challenged you?" Aura said. It was not a question. "The thought had crossed my mind," admitted. Aura looked away toward the window that showed the stars beyond. "I have fought for 350 years. Since I was young enough to hold a weapon, I have trained and fought and defeated every opponent I ever faced. The culture celebrates combat. It celebrates victory. It celebrates strength above all things." She paused, and when she continued, her voice was quieter. I was the best. Everyone knew it. Every young warrior in the Empire wanted to fight me to test themselves against the greatest, and I defeated them all, every single one. Listened, he did not interrupt. He understood that Ara was telling him something important. But eventually, there was no one left to fight, no one worthy of real combat. The younger warriors would come to the arena, and I would defeat them, and they would know before we even started that they could not win. The victory meant nothing because the challenge meant nothing. Ara turned back to look at him. And then you stood up and fought 3 enforcers with your bare hands. You moved with intelligence and purpose. You showed strength that was not just physical. You showed something my own people had lost, something we had forgotten how to value. What is that? Asked. Choice, Ara said. Every ability I have, every skill, every bit of strength in my body I was given. My genetics were chosen. My training began when I was too young to understand what I was becoming. I did not choose to be strong. I was made strong. And somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like a warrior and started feeling like a weapon. She reached out and touched the cut on his ribs very gently. You chose this. You chose to fight. You chose to learn. You chose to refuse to give up even when you could not possibly win. And somehow you did win. Not through genetic perfection or centuries of training. You won through the choice to be brave. Felt something shift in his chest. You wanted to lose. I wanted to understand, Ara corrected. I wanted to fight someone who had chosen to be a warrior instead of being made one. And when I lost, when you stood there and showed me mercy instead of finishing me, I finally understood what real strength was. They sat in silence for a long moment. Around them, the medical bay continued its quiet work. But they were isolated in their small space, 2 warriors from different species, looking at each other across the gap between their worlds. In culture, Ara said slowly, when a warrior bests another warrior, the victor has certain rights. In this case, those rights are unusual because you are human. But the principle is the same. I am asking you to consider something. What? Asked. Bonding with me, Ara said. Not in a military sense, in a personal sense. In my culture, this means partnership. It means shared purpose and shared life. It means that your survival matters as much as my own, that your goals matter as much as my goals. Understood what she was offering. It was more than simple attraction. It was a way of saying that she trusted him, that she valued him, that he was no longer just an interesting opponent to her. He was someone she wanted in her life. The government will not approve, said. They see humans as inferior. I know, Ara said. And your government will have concerns too. Your species does not typically bond with. They see us as dangerous. They might see you as having been influenced or corrupted by my presence. So we would face opposition from both sides, said. Yes, Ara agreed, but we would face it together, and that is what matters. Looked at her, he saw the strength in her, yes, but he also saw something else. He saw the loneliness of being the greatest warrior in the galaxy with no one worthy of being your equal. He saw the hunger for something real, something true, something that mattered beyond victory and defeat. I need time to think, said. This is not a decision I can make in a medical bay on the day after a fight. I understand, Ara said, but I am patient. I have waited 300 years for something worth waiting for. I can wait longer. Over the next several days, and Ara spent time together. They ate meals together in the station's observation deck, looking out at the stars and talking. They discussed philosophy and culture and the nature of strength. They talked about their fears and their dreams. Ara told him about her childhood, about the pressure to be perfect, about the weight of her species' expectations. Told her about his own journey, about the choice to study and learn and become someone worthy of respect through effort rather than genetics. And slowly something grew between them. Not just attraction, not just respect, but genuine connection. The knowledge that the other person understood something fundamental about who you were and accepted you anyway. After 5 days, found Ara in the observation deck at midnight station time. She was looking out at the fleet. He walked to stand beside her, their shoulders almost touching. I have made my decision, he said. Ara waited, not saying anything. I will bond with you, said. Not because it is easy, not because it will be approved by either of our governments, but because when I look at you, I see someone worth fighting for, someone worth choosing. Ara turned and looked at him with an expression that was almost too intense to meet. Then the news broadcast arrived on a military channel. It showed a young officer, very official and very cold, delivering a message from the government. Ara was ordered to return to the home world immediately to stand before the High Council. She was to answer charges of betraying honor by bonding with a human. Watched the broadcast with Ara in her quarters on the station. When it ended, she did not look afraid. She looked determined. "They will demand that you renounce me," said, "or face being declared a traitor." "Yes," Ara said, "but I will not renounce you, and they cannot force me to do something I do not wish to do." "You do not understand," said. "If they declare you a traitor, they will send warships. They will arrest you by force if necessary. They will execute you in front of the council as an example to others who might consider bonding with foreign species." Ara stood and looked out at the stars. "I am not the only who questions our ways. There are others who believe that bonding with other species could bring peace instead of endless conflict. But they are afraid to say so publicly. If I stand firm, if I show them that someone of my status is willing to risk everything for this belief, it might change things." Before could respond, alarms began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Every officer ran to their stations, preparing for emergency. Received an immediate message from Colonel Grove. The fleet had split into two groups. One group had maintained peaceful position. The other group, under the command of General, had fired weapons and was moving toward the station. Ran to the control center with Ara close behind him. The view screens showed the battle group approaching. These were not support ships. These were combat vessels with full weapons systems and warriors ready for battle. "This is impossible," Grove said. Her face was pale. "General is a but open conflict against our position on neutral station. This is an act of war against the human government." "It is not about the humans," Ara said quietly. "This is about the civil conflict. There are those in my government who see bonding between species as the beginning of the end for purity. Leads that faction. He wants to prove that our ways are right. He wants to do this by destroying me." General's ships opened fire. The station's defense systems activated, but they were not strong enough to stop a full military assault. The human military personnel on the station had weapons and training, but they numbered only 200. The forces numbered in the thousands. Made decisions quickly. He ordered the human personnel to the most protected sections of the station. He coordinated with the commander who remained loyal to the government. He prepared to make a stand, even knowing they would lose. Then Ara did something that changed everything. She sent a signal on the military channel, her command authority overriding all other broadcasts. She identified herself as a fighter for honor and purpose. Then she turned her weapons towards forces. The warriors under her command, still loyal to her because of her 3 centuries of perfect leadership, joined her without hesitation. The fighting that had seemed impossible became a real battle, with 2 factions fighting each other in space around the station. But had more ships, and he had soldiers who believed they were fighting for the future of their species. The battle was brutal and quick. Ara's forces fought brilliantly, but they were being overwhelmed. Inside the station, fought alongside human soldiers to repel boarding parties. He moved through corridors, making decisions, organizing defense, refusing to give up even as the situation became more desperate. He thought of Ara fighting outside the station and pushed himself harder. The turning point came when the other government forces, under the command of High Commander, arrived at full speed. They had received Ara's message and the news of betrayal. They came to protect a fellow commander from assassination and to prevent a civil war from spreading. The arrival of forces broke assault. His ships began to retreat. But in the retreat, General sent a final message, a promise that he would hunt Ara across the galaxy and kill her, no matter how long it took. When the battle ended, the station was damaged but still operational. The human military had lost 12 soldiers. The forces loyal to Ara had lost many more, but they had survived. They had held the station. Ara returned to the station badly wounded. Her exoskeleton was cracked in several places. Her movements were slow and careful, showing pain with every step. But she was alive and she was still standing. Ran to her and helped her walk. She leaned on him, and he realized that for the first time the great warrior needed someone else's strength to stay upright. "We did it," she said. "We survived." "But at what cost?" asked. He could see the damage, the blood, the injuries that would take weeks to heal. "The cost of choosing," Ara said. "The cost of deciding that peace is worth fighting for. The cost of deciding that a bond between a human and a is worth the risk. Colonel Grove approached them. Commander Ara, you are a fugitive from your own government. General will pursue you. We cannot protect you from the entire military. You do not need to protect me from my government, a new voice said. High Commander he council chamber was vast and cold and filled with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Humans and sat opposite each other, separated by a central floor where speakers made their arguments. This was the moment that would determine the future of peace or war between two powerful civilizations. Ara stood in the center of the chamber. Her wounds had healed, but she moved with a slight stiffness that showed the injuries still caused her pain. She wore formal clothing, not combat armor. This was a ceremony, not a battle, though in some ways the stakes were even higher. I stand before this council not as a warrior asking for victory, Ara began. Her voice was strong and clear, echoing through the vast chamber. I stand before you as someone asking for understanding, as someone asking for change. She paused, and the chamber fell silent. Every being present knew who she was, knew her history, knew that she was the greatest warrior they had ever produced. For 300 years, I defined myself through combat. I was the strongest, the fastest, the most skilled. I defeated every opponent I faced, and I thought that this made me valuable. I thought that this made me strong, but I was wrong. Gasps echoed through the chamber. A commander openly admitting error was almost unknown. I was strong in my body, Ara continued. But I was weak in my understanding of what true strength means. I had never faced real challenge. I had never been tested in ways that mattered beyond victory and defeat. And then I met a human named. She turned and looked directly at who stood with Colonel Grove and other human representatives. This human has no genetic enhancements, no centuries of training, no physiology that makes him naturally superior to most species. He has something more valuable. He has chosen to be strong. Ara walked forward and all eyes followed her. The day he fought me, he defeated an enemy with his bare hands, but more importantly, he showed me that strength is not something given to you. Strength is something you build. It is something you choose every single day. She turned back to address the entire council. When the moment came to renounce this human to save myself, I refused. When my government declared me a traitor for bonding with him, I did not retreat. I did not hide. I chose to stand firm because I believe that strength is not about genetics or technology or military power. Strength is about the choice to connect with someone different from yourself. Strength is about the choice to build peace instead of endless conflict. Watched her speak, and he felt the enormousness of what she was doing. She was not just defending their bond. She was asking the people to change their entire way of understanding themselves. One of the representatives stood. His name was not the general, but a high-ranking politician. Commander Ara, what you propose threatens everything that culture stands for. Our strength comes from our genetic purity, from our refusal to weaken ourselves through mixing with inferior species. The humans are not inferior, heard Ara's response before she even spoke. He knew what she would say because he knew her now. They are different. They lack the physical advantages that we possess, but they have something we have forgotten how to value. They have the ability to build and create and adapt. They have compassion that we have trained out of ourselves. They have the capacity for growth that we have locked away in pursuit of military perfection. Stepped forward, breaking protocol. Colonel Grove tried to hold him back, but he pulled free. He walked to the center of the chamber where Ara stood. With respect to this council, said, his voice small compared to hers but steady, humans are not asking that to change everything about yourselves. We are asking you to add something. We are asking you to consider that there might be value in partnership instead of dominance, in cooperation instead of conquest. He looked at Ara and then back at the council. Humans choose our strength. We do not inherit it. We are born relatively weak and fragile, so we learn to be clever. We learn to work together. We learn to build tools and technologies because we could not rely on our bodies alone. We learn to value individuals who make good choices, even when those choices are hard. Paused, gathering his thoughts. Commander Ara is the greatest warrior I have ever seen. She beat me badly in that fight. I won only through strategy and luck and the mercy that she chose to show me. But more importantly, she is someone who can look at her entire life and choose to change the path she is on. That is strength. Real strength. Not genetic, not inherited. Chosen. The chamber erupted in voices. Debate broke out among the representatives. Some called his words insulting. Others seemed moved by them. The human delegation sat quietly, aware that had just risked everything with that speech. High Commander stood. His seniority in the government silenced most of the other voices. "I have reviewed all available data regarding this union," said. "I have considered the philosophical arguments and the practical implications, and I have reached a conclusion. Commander Ara is correct. Humans have something valuable to offer the people. And more importantly, this union, this choice that these two individuals have made, represents what the galaxy could become if we allow ourselves to change." Turn to face the human delegation. The government formally recognizes the bond between Commander Ara and Commander as legitimate. Furthermore, we propose that the two of them lead a joint human diplomatic mission to build understanding and cooperation between our species. He continued, addressing the entire council. "It is time for the Empire to move beyond simple military dominance. It is time for us to learn that strength comes in many forms. And it is time for us to understand that the greatest strength is not in being the best warrior, but in choosing to build something better than you inherited." The vote on the proposal came the following day. It passed with more than 70% support from the representatives present. Not unanimous, but overwhelming. There would be opposition, there would be those who continued to resist the changes, but the path forward was now clear. In the weeks that followed, and Ara prepared for their new role, they would travel to human space and space, explaining the vision of peace. They would build understanding where there had been suspicion. They would show by their example that beings from different species could share purpose and respect. One evening, they stood on a viewing platform aboard a diplomatic ship, looking out at the stars. Behind them, a formation of human and ships maintained peaceful position together. It was a sight that would have been impossible just months before. "Do you remember what I told you in the medical bay?" Ara asked. "That I had waited 300 years for something worth waiting for?" "I remember," said. "I was wrong," Ara said. "I had not been waiting. I did not know what I was looking for, but now I understand. I was waiting to understand what strength really meant, and you showed me. You showed me that real strength is choice. Real strength is the ability to look at everything you believe about yourself and change it." Took her hand. Her grip was still strong enough to crush him, but it was gentle, always gentle with him now. "Thank you for choosing me," he said. "Thank you for deciding that a human was worth fighting for." "Thank you for showing me what it means to truly fight," Ara replied. "Thank you for showing me that I was not invincible but something better, that I was capable of growth." They stood together as the sun of a distant star rose over the horizon. Two warriors from different worlds, different biologies, different cultures, but united by the choice to believe that strength could mean something more than victory. That true strength was measured not in the ability to defeat your enemies, but in the willingness to build peace with them. The galaxy would never be the same, and it had all started with one moment. A human fighting three with bare hands, a commander watching and deciding that someone was worth knowing. A choice made between two warriors to see past everything that divided them and find the strength that could unite them. In the months and years that followed, and Ara worked to build real cooperation between humans, and it was difficult work. There were setbacks and failures and people who fought the changes with everything they had. But gradually the galaxy shifted. Trade increased. Technology was shared. Individuals from different species began to understand each other. And it had all started with the simple fact that one warrior had watched another fight barehanded against overwhelming odds, and decided that real strength meant something completely different than she had ever believed. She had seen him battle with nothing but his courage and intelligence and refusal to surrender. And in that moment, she had recognized something that she had been searching for her entire life. She had recognized a choice made freely, a strength that had been earned rather than given, a warrior worthy of her respect and her bonding. She had seen him fight, and she had decided that he was hers, and in making that choice, she had changed the galaxy. Are at least those of us who lead it support her choice. Turn to Ara. "You have shown something that my people had nearly forgotten. You have shown that honor is not about following tradition. Honor is about choosing what is right, even when it is difficult, even when the entire galaxy is against you. This is the kind of leader the need in difficult times." Looked at Ara and saw her processing this. She had expected to be hunted. She had expected to lose everything. And instead, she had found allies, found support, found people who believed that her choice was correct. Over the next days, as wounded soldiers recovered and damage to the station was assessed, made an official announcement. He requested that the government open negotiations with the human government about peaceful coexistence and trade. He proposed that the union between and Aura be recognized as a symbol of the possibility of peace between species. Many opposed this, but many more saw it as the future. The galaxy was changing, and Aura's choice had lit a fire that could not be put out. Are bonded. From this moment forward, your life matters as much as my own. Your goals are my goals, your safety is my safety. She reached out and took his hand. For a warrior of her strength, her grip was surprisingly gentle. We should tell them tomorrow, said. The command officers, both human and... I know, Aura said. But for tonight, let us just stand here. Let us just be two warriors who found something worth fighting for. And they stood together, looking out at the stars, knowing that the easy part of their journey was over and the difficult part was just beginning. Aura looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that would change everything. Come to the medical bay, we must talk. I accept your challenge, Commander, Aura said. His voice was steady and clear. I will fight you. Aura smiled, an expression that looked strange on an alien face but was unmistakably genuine. Good, she said. This will be interesting. As she walked back to her people, understood that something important had just happened. Something had shifted in the room and in the galaxy itself. A human had caught the eye of the greatest warrior they had ever produced, and that small moment would change everything.